You're welcome back to the Gavel. It's 2 years into the 8th Assembly. Last week, both chambers held a valedictory session to celebrate the second anniversary of the 8th Assembly. In the last 2 years, the Senate has been working on several economic bills to stimulate the economy. We had a chat with the Senior Special Assistant on Legislative Matters and Strategy, Mr. Kingsley Amaku, to learn more about these economic bills.
The private sector was concerned that there were too many regulatory bottlenecks that are inhibiting businesses. They were also concerned that the infrastructure deficit was increasing at a level that the public financing cannot and could not deal with. And so there was a need to mobilize private sector funding to close the gap on our infrastructure deficit. And there was also the need to open up the access to finance to SMEs to be able to create more opportunities for Nigerians. We saw by the time in 2015 that several companies that have become institutionalized earlier, that had been in Nigeria for decades, were packing their bags and leaving the country, all because of the harsh economic environment with which they were doing business. And the report we had showed clearly that if we fixed some of these laws, that it was possible to grow the Nigerian economy again and in a manner that is inclusive and that could create millions of jobs within half a decade. And so the focus was on infrastructure deficit, closing the infrastructure deficit, giving access to finance to our SMEs so that they can grow and create the jobs that we needed. We were also concerned about people, investors who were scared out of Nigeria because of our ranking in the World Bank ease of doing business ranking, which placed Nigeria 169 out of 189 countries.
I know that several laws have been proposed by the Senate. Some of them have been passed as a result of the engagement between the team and the private sector and civil society on improving the economy. These are economic bills. I know one of them is the railway law, which was being amended. So could you tell us give us examples of a few of these economic bills which were introduced in the Senate to address these challenges?
These priority bills include the the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Bill, the Railway Bill, as you mentioned, the Ports and Harbour Bill, the Federal Rules Authority Bill, the National Rules Fund Bill, the Secure Transactions Immovable Assets Bill, the Credit Reporting Bill, the Warehouse Receipts, Independent Warehouse Receipts Bill, and a couple of other economic reform bills, and procurement bill. I must add the procurement bill. And now let me speak a little bit about, let me use the procurement bill to give you an instance of how the impact and the implication of these bills will have on the economy. For the procurement bill, we have the Senate President, through the Senate, has been able to cause the amendment to the procurement bill to be done to, one, open a huge market for the made in Nigeria goods. Now, before now, there had not been a deliberate policy towards the promotion of the made in Nigerian goods.
Now you're talking about the procurement law, which the Senate just passed and is waiting for concurrence with the House of Representatives. I know there's been this talk, or clamor by some Nigerians. Take for instance in the aspect of automobiles for government officials. There's been this clamor that Nigerian government officials should use made in Nigeria vehicles. We have 1 or 2 companies who are making this. Why has the Senate not looked at this aspect of creating a law to compel government officials to use made in Nigeria vehicles? We saw this happen in India.
If you make a law that says public institutions must buy from innocent motors, while that may be good, it may actually be against the principles of the free market competition principles of the market. And so while we may make a law saying that the public sector is advised to patronize these made in Nigeria goods, it will be against market practices and principles to insist that they buy from a particular producer, especially where it is related to technology and safety. So you reduce their discretion to be able to think in terms of safety and in terms of effectiveness. Now, what this law would do is that we will grow bottom up. We will see, for example, like the Senate president will always use the example of a Nigerian who is producing envelope. Why will a Nigerian who is producing envelope not be patronized by the country, by government? Why will a Nigerian producing plastic bags, producing tables, wooden chairs, those simple items not be patronized? But when you go into high-tech and machinery market, we are going into uncharted territories, and we may have unintended consequences.
Now, it's one thing for the National Assembly to enact a law, another for the executive to sign it. But more importantly is the issue of oversight. If the National Assembly says they are amending the Procurement Act to ensure that government agencies use as their first recourse made in Nigeria goods, if there are alternatives made in Nigeria goods, the National Assembly has over time, and this is a criticism, that they have not been very effective in terms of oversight. Is this not going to also be a problem? How do you oversight? How would they effectively oversight government agencies to ensure that they adhere to this procurement law?
To do effective oversight, it takes both an active citizenry and a focused legislature. Now, active, because the legislature will require to get those information, and people being able to complain, petition, and use their positions to be able to fish out or to provide information where there has been infractions of this law. And then it is only when that is done and the National Assembly or the Senate fails to act that you will say that the oversight scheme of the National Assembly isn't working. Now, we are growing in our democratic culture. People are getting to understand what exactly is required of them, that they are not docile in this whole enterprise, that they are active participants. So I think that also in this area, the National Assembly, the Senate President has made it clear in almost all the forums he has talked about this Procurement Act amendment, that he has set up a unit in his office to receive petitions or information on this kind of issues. And we are already standing by to get the public to be involved in the procurement amendment if we were to make the best of the benefits of the procurement amendment.
Now, this is where we draw the curtains on this week's edition of A Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.